Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. A little bit of midweek boxing for you over in Japan. They're very fond of these, midweek shows, which is annoying for me because if they're from Japan, they're going to be the early hours of the day, and of course, I'm at work and all that bullshit. Work always gets in the way of the real world. But of course, the shows are usually great, so I always try and go and see what's happening, take a look at the fights. And there's one card that's on tomorrow, and it's headlined by Brian Norman Jr. against JIN SASAKI. This is for the WBO welterweight title held by Norman Jr. I think it's his second defence of the title. And JIN SASAKI, 19 wins, 1 defeat and 1 draw, and 17 KOs. And he fights in a manner that you would think, suggests that record, 17 KOs in 19 wins. He's a nasty little sod. I mean, he's only 23. Very, very aggressive. These Japanese lads are always tough, aren't they? They're always, they're always resilient, good chins, most of them. But this guy throws meat on every punch. It's an orthodox fighter, comes forward, jabs actually quite well. He's got very quick feet, sort of hustles his way straight in, and then bang, bang with the jab. But you always get the impression the jab is he's looking for that big right hand or maybe to hang a left hook off it. And this can lead to a little bit of a few bumps in the road, like, for example, when he fought Kaite Obara, who he knocked out in the third round, spectacular knockout. He actually floored Obara with a left hook to the body. Obara went down, got up, and then good old Jin, he knocked him out, knocked him flat with an overhand right when he was trying to skid off the ropes. But prior to that, in the second round, Obara had floored Sasaki himself with I can't remember what the punch was offhand, but I know he floored him, and it was solely because Sasaki was coming in the front door like he always does. He scuttles along like a big crab, bang bang with the jab, good jab, and then the moment he's about to land the big knockout punch, or punches plural, he can be timed, and he was timed, and the veteran Obara did catch him and put him down, but he just couldn't handle the sort of rampaging youthful vigor of Sasaki. Now, all of this, at only 23, he won't have lost any of that, desire, any of that youthful desire and determination, motivation. But he's in against a guy who's only a year older than him, 24 years old, Brian Norman Jr. But Brian Norman Jr. fights in I would call it a far more mature way, probably a less exciting way. But he always looks to me like he's wise beyond his years, because he is a pure box puncher, box fighter, you might say. He won his title against Giovanni Santillan, which at the time was considered to be a bit of an upset. That was an interim title, and then he got upgraded when he fought Derek Cuevas and knocked Cuevas out in 3 rounds. He was upgraded for that fight to the full fat version of the WBO welterweight title. Like I say, Santillan, he was considered to be pretty much a favourite because he just knocked out Alexis Rocha in 6 rounds, and Rocha was again a favourite, and Santillan upset the apple cart, and then Norman Jr. knocked out Santillan in 10 rounds, and I mean knocked him out. He was beat him up and knocked him out. Then he had a fight with Derek Cuevas, who seemed to fold very quick. That was his last fight, his first defence. He folded pretty quick in 3 rounds, which was kind of disappointing, really. Cuevas, in the first couple of rounds, seemed to have something about him. He seemed to have a few skills, but no, he quickly, I think he felt the power, and for some reason just folded. And Cuevas came in with a good record, 27-1-1. But you weren't going to mistake him for his namesake, Pepino Cuevas. This guy, when he started getting whacked, he seemed to lose heart pretty quick. Norman Jr., orthodox fighter. He has 27 wins with 21 KOs, no draws and no defeats. But his skills are, and his skills are I would say certainly better than Sasaki's. Certainly more refined and more conventional, but he doesn't mind having a row with you either. And he is cool under fire, very cool under fire. It has to be said, of course, that Sasaki is quite a big man for a Japanese fighter. He's a welterweight, and you don't get that many Japanese welterweights. They dominate, the light flyers up to, say, the bantams, the super bantams. Inoue holds all the super bantam belts. You've got Nakatani, bantamweight, and there's some terrific, really, really good, exciting Japanese fighters. And I would say that Sasaki fits into that bracket just because he's a bit bigger. I have to say that when I've seen him in the past, he's had all his fights in Japan, but even against fellow Japanese welters, he's looked quite small for the weight. And I don't think he's necessarily physically. I don't get the impression watching him that he's physically much, a big imposing welterweight. He's not physically strong, and not that he's weak, but he's not one of those guys who ragdolls you. It's pure aggression and punch output that overwhelms the opponents. And he can finish fights late, against Hiroto Hoshi. He lasted into the 11th round and then got the win then. But a lot of them are, second, third round knockouts just because the opponents do get just overwhelmed. Now, against Andy Hirooka in 2019, he suffered his only loss. He was stopped in 11 rounds. And in fact, in that fight, he failed to make weight. That was according to BoxRec when I read it earlier. And he did get stopped in 11 rounds. Hirooka was, at the time, 17-0 undefeated. And I think he's still undefeated in about 23, 24 fights. So we're talking about, again, a guy in Sasaki who, fun to watch, very, very aggressive, throws knockout punches, seems to get offended if he doesn't throw a punch that doesn't have knockout written all over it. Jabs well, very quick feet, likes the low center of gravity, crouches a bit. But then you put that in with Brian Norman Jr.'s skills and considerable punching power. And to be honest with you, I see Norman Jr. surviving an early onslaught and settling down, finding his rhythm, timing Sasaki, and probably grinding him down and stopping him. I'd say in about 10 rounds. I mean, Norman Jr. is, 5'8" roughly. I think Sasaki's roughly the same. And Norman Jr. doesn't look to me like a big welterweight. They both look like they can make the weight comfortably. So I don't think the weight will be an issue. But I think Norman Jr. is going to have to ride out that early storm. This is in Japan, don't forget. So Sasaki will have his hometown fans cheering him on. But that don't bother Norman Jr. When he beat Santillan, I think it was a San Diego fight, and most of the crowd were going for Santillan. But I just see Norman, especially with the momentum he's got and the current form, being able to weather for the first 3 rounds, maybe those big bombs, settling down, finding his rhythm after about 3-4 rounds, and then gradually grinding down Sasaki, beating him up, and then probably stopping him in about 10 rounds. That's the way I see it. But don't write out Sasaki, and he's a lot of fun to watch. Do try and watch this fight. I know it's for us in Britain and America. It's well, I don't know what's the difference. What's the time limit in America? In Britain, like I say, these fights get shown in the early morning, but not the early morning, but I suppose you'd say late morning, like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. So, but have a look. Try and catch it on YouTube or whatever. I think it's a top rank promotion. They do have a lot of cards over there. I don't know whether they're in conjunction with Mr. Honda's promotional outfit, but you do get a lot of top rank cards over there co-promoted, and they are always good value. So have a look at this fight if you can. I think it's going to be an entertaining fight. Sasaki's always entertaining, and Norman Jr., I mean, the fight with Santillan, that was a very good fight as well. but he's a very cool customer, very cool under pressure, Norman Jr. And I think that again, that maturity is what might make the difference here. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree with my prediction or disagree with it, why you're picking either Norman or Sasaki. And yeah, thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you did enjoy the video. I always appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Bye for now.